So the brand new F-16 and trading update has been released, as I already said many times, and the tanks have actually went through a lot of significant changes which do change, of course, the buffs and nerfs of some tanks, and along with this we also have received some quality of life changes which could help some people out into driving the tanks in how they are used and etc. In today's video I'll be going through a little bit of these changes which haven't been mentioned in the main changelog, because the main changelog has only gave to us information on stuff that was added into the game. However, buffs and nerfs and etc., they have not been mentioned, and today I'll be covering some of them, so let's just jump right into it. Alright, so here we are right into the game. I'm gonna be going for this in more of a physical form rather than just commentating over gameplay, because today there's just so much to cover, and today's video is just gonna be fully based on tanks. There has been different changes, but I'll be going through that later. So the first thing which I would like to show you is going to be a little cool feature which was changed about the tanks, which in fact is going to be the brakes, and you might be wondering what that has to do with anything. I hope I'm at least correct here, and I will be reading the announcement very soon regarding the brake change as well, just to clarify it all to you guys. But also in this video I will be going through another sneak peek on a thing that was secretly changed. I don't know if this was made on purpose or not. Anyway, the developers have just released some information about the tank brakes being changed, and you guys might wonder what this means. I think what it means is that the brakes have now been buffed, which is the exact statement which was made in the announcement. And basically how the brake buff works is now the brakes are going to be working a lot faster than previously. However, while I'm using the T72, I don't seem to realize much of a difference. Let me just go to 40 miles per hour to show you guys another example, and now I'm gonna slow down as fast as possible with S, and I don't see much of a brake difference here. I don't know what they meant by brake buffs, but here is just a screenshot on the screen of one of the things that was changed. If this is the case for most tanks and most of the brakes have been buffed, I believe the reason why this was done for the tanks is so, let's say, this is kind of like a quality of life change in order for, of course, tanks to not be falling inside of the water while they are just driving away, so they can quickly, like, stop before they fall in the water. I believe that's one of the changes that was definitely made, and I guess that's something that people have been reporting. That's why they wanted this change. Okay, so moving right into the next change, which is a kind of a sneak peek, which they haven't mentioned in any announcement, but on one of the tanks in the game, which in this case I'm going to be spawning in the T72 once again, they have decided to add such a feature called turret collision. So let me showcase it to you guys. Let me just try to go straight in a straight line and have a look at this. I'm stopping because the turret got close to the wall. So pretty much what's gonna be happening here is that the T72 will no longer be able to go through the wall with its turrets, which is something that the tanks have recently been facing, of the turrets being able to fully kind of face through the wall. And I really like this feature, and I think that they should keep implementing this. I don't know why they haven't really gave us detail on the turret collision on just the T72. I guess they are just trying to give it a sneak peek for us secretly, or they want to see some YouTubers upload videos about it. I don't really know what they're trying to do. However, one problem I seem to notice with this feature of turret collision is, let me show it to you guys. Let's say you guys are trying to park inside of your base, and just have a look at this. The tank is now getting stuck in this one little place, and normally you guys would like to open a gate while you're inside of a tank. If you have a look at this, we are unable to open gates with a tank just because the turret is making the tank a little bit too far from the gate itself, so we actually gotta drive this way, which is kind of annoying, and I don't really like the fact that this happens. And have a look now. Now the turret is just facing through the wall right after I've done this. As you guys can see, this feature still needs some work, and it still needs to be fixed somewhat. Just have a look now. Now my tank is just literally stuck in the wall because of this. However, if you do go to the tank area, the turret collision is working a little bit differently, because now we are able to open the gate, because I believe the tank area has a little bit more reach in terms of opening gates from further away. Anyway, I really do like this feature, and the one thing I realized is they probably implemented this because they want to fix the lack of tanks being able to die to owner-only gates. Because let's say once we are all basically attacking some people with a tank, and let's say we drive inside of their base, we like to basically stumble upon, of course, the owner-only doors, and then our tanks just randomly explode, and we wonder what we died to. Yes, this is a bit of a problem, and I really hope the developers do add turret collision to every single tank, so this does not happen, because just the turrets being able to face through a freaking owner-only gate is a little bit weird, and it simply just kills your tank very quickly. Now moving to the last change, which is the most interesting one, which I know probably a lot of you guys have been waiting for. The Abrams X tank has gotten a buff, and I am actually for this buff, and I'll be explaining you guys how this Abrams X was actually buffed. The health of the Abrams X has now been updated from 1.7k to 1.9k, so it has received a 200 health buff, and that is actually some really good numbers, and personally I really do like this change. So let's take a look on how this change is going to be working. So normally the Abrams X would take around 30% damage from one javelin from a medium distance, I guess we can say. So let me just shoot a javelin at the Abrams X right here. It's gonna go up in the air, and let's see how much the Abrams X is going to now be left with. So taking a look, the Abrams X is now going to be left with 84%, meaning that it has been taking way less damage from the javelin. So let me just do this again. Here, and this is the damage. Yeah, it seems to be taking exactly the same damage every time, and it seems to be that sweet spot of 16%. So now javelins do way less damage to the Abrams X. So let me just do the RPG. This was left on 64%, so let me just do the RPG to this space, and we have lost around 12% health. So the Abrams X now has way greater health, and this is actually somewhat of a good change, and I'll be explaining you guys exactly why right now. And now let me explain to you guys why this buff was not a bad thing, and I do not believe it should be reverted. It was a little bit of my idea to also give it a buff, and I have made a video on this, and now I'll be explaining you guys a little bit more on why the Abrams X buff was definitely a good idea. Well, I'm just kind of showing you guys gameplay of it in the background. Recently, as the tank updates have been added, the tanks that were of course added into the game were getting more similar and more similar to the Abrams X. Maybe not fully in terms of power, however, the Abrams X no longer had its unique kind of feature, because now the PO-01 had the same speed as it had the same machine gun as it, and it almost had the same cannon as the Abrams X, and then there has been tanks that were added who had exactly the same health and etc, and Abrams X really had nothing unique about it except for the javelin. And let's all be honest, do you guys really believe that one javelin that does maybe 15% to another tank and just letting you see where some vehicles are in the close range, is this really worth the 1,500 Robux? Let's all be honest, that truly is not worth the price. So the reason why this buff was actually made into the game is in order to make the game economy a little bit more stable and a much more balanced, let's say. Because let's be honest, it just wasn't worth the price, and the game definitely needs to bring in Robux, because if the game doesn't bring in Robux, then the developers do not have any money in order to actually be able to sponsor the game and in order to pay their other developers to create the game, because if there's no money flowing in, there's no one to pay, there's no workers, and the economy pretty much collapses. I think that's the easiest way to explain it to you guys, and really, some game passes, yes, they are unbalanced in this game, such as the Explosive Sniper, which I probably should be making videos around that, but for now I'll be leaving this topic away, because today is just a video about the Abrams X and the tanks, and I believe that the tanks are now a little bit more balanced in terms of the economy and which tank is actually king, because I believe the Abrams X did need this buff, and as you guys can see it by the gameplay, the Abrams X is just a little bit better because it's able to tank a little bit more hits from other tanks, and it's also able to tank a little bit more from planes. And there really wasn't much of a counter to the F-35 recently, because the F-35 could just simply shoot all of its rockets at the Abrams X while it's high in the air, where the Abrams X just cannot reach it with its cannon, which was a popular strategy, but there just wasn't much to counter it as well. And now there is much more to counter it, because the Abrams X is now able to, I guess, tank more shots from the F-35 and be able to kind of counter it with its firepower before it's too late. Anyways, I do believe that this is a positive buff, and buffs like this are kind of welcome in War Tycoon, because there are a lot of users in the game as well that also spent their Robux already, and then the kind of the worth of their tank is no longer worth as much as it was when they first bought it. I feel like keeping that worth in the game is also very important, and this is definitely a W from the developers right here. And if you want to ask me, should you actually buy the Abrams X or not, I definitely do recommend it, because now I believe it to actually be worth its price and it worth its money. Anyway, these are all the changes that we have received for the tanks in this update, and I really personally like this update, and I'll be covering more regarding helicopter and plane changes in a different video, because I just don't want to make this video 30 minutes long. Anyway, this is all I have for you guys in today's video. Let me know in the comment section down below what you would like to see next, what you want me to cover next, because there are still a lot of changes to cover. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.